I'll just say it. This movie makes me miss the characters from the Matthew Broderick Godzilla. Godzilla vs. Kong. Directed by Adam Wingard. The $5 bin horror king, whose accomplishments also include the Netflix adaptation of Death Note. Are we still excited about Thundercats, kids? Released on March 31st, 2021, this Clash of the Titans, so to speak, not only marks the 4th installment of the Monsterverse, it is also the first time in 59 years that a film has featured the 8th wonder of the world and everyone's favorite atomic-powered iguana since the original pairing of 1962's King Kong vs. Godzilla. And judging by this new iteration's $27.9 million box office in just 3 days, it's safe to say people haven't changed much in the last 87 years, because ever since King Kong first thrilled audiences the world over in 1933, moviegoers have gone bananas any time a giant monkey or lizard stomps their way across the big screen. It goes without saying, the stars of this film are truly Kong and Godzilla, and that's fair enough, they are the namesake of the film after all. But I've seen episodes of Samurai Jack with more character development than this movie had. I know no one goes to kaiju films for the human characters, but gee whiz, at least give them some kind of significance to the overall storyline. But before we go any further, I want to take a moment to recognize 3 brave heroes of the Empire. Captain Matthew Nicholson, Elizabeth Mulliken, and I'm just happy to be a stormtrooper, Adam Jordan. The Empire thanks you for your service, my friends. Now, to explain why I had problems with this film, I have to go into some major spoilers here, so just hang in there with me as we break it down. As our story begins, the world has rebuilt itself after the dramatic events of King of Monsters, and after 5 peaceful years, Godzilla is on a rampage once again. The guy from Early Edition is back for a brief cameo, mainly just to set up his daughter's storyline and to wonder why the world's biggest Pokemon is having such a massive rage bender. But speaking of his daughter, the girl from Stranger Things returns as well, going on all sorts of life-threatening and illegal adventures, including Grand Theft Auto, breaking and entering, and getting caught up in a kaiju battle after hanging out with a conspiracy theorist. But it's okay. Little Miss Stranger Things doesn't have to worry about stranger danger, because she has her very own dorky sidekick to insult and laugh at. He's pretty much Chunk from the Goonies, and honestly, he only seems to exist to make people feel less weird about a teenage girl meeting up with a middle-aged conspiracy theorist she met online. Stranger still, the only reason for this entire subplot is so this trio of simpletons can sneak around Apex Cybernetics just to show the audience what the bad guys are up to. But speaking of bad guys, our villain of the picture is the CEO of Apex, who is about as menacing as Senor Senior from Kim Possible. His team is found an ancient power source in the planet's core, which is where the Titans supposedly come from. But as my old buddy Jar Jar says, going through the planet core is bad bombing. So they assemble a team including a Hollow Earth enthusiast and a Jane Goodall type who studies King Kong in a special enclosure so Godzilla can't sense his power level and go all Dragon Ball Z on his monkey butt. The plan is to journey to the center of the Earth, return Kong to his ancestral home, so he will be drawn to the rare power source. Sounds great, right? Except while recruiting Dr. Hollow Earth, the CEO of Jerk Corp shows him a holographic image of satellite scans that show precisely where this power source is. So why exactly do they need to recruit a team of experts and bring a giant monkey halfway across the planet to help them find something they've already found? Kong and crew set sail from Monkey Island, and things get bananas in a hurry when Godzilla senses the big monkey's Kai Juju and attacks their convoy, leading to the first big dookaroo of the film. And when the monsters throw down, it's on like Donkey Kong, and they certainly aren't monkeying around either. Godzilla easily cripples the fleet and nearly drowns the big monkey, causing our heroes to fly the rest of the way, carrying the soggy primate in the biggest net I've ever seen. The conquest continues as the team reaches Antarctica so so their journey to the center of the Earth can begin. And apparently, since the first Godzilla film, humans have been busy bees indeed, developing advanced vehicles that look like the production designer from Tron Legacy built shuttlecrafts for the USS Enterprise. Back to Stranger Things. After a trio of trespassers were accidentally trapped in a shipping crate full of kaiju eggs, they find themselves in a massive test facility for Apex Cybernetics' latest invention, Mechagodzilla. Unfortunately for the Iron Giant, Apex must have ran out of AA's because they can only charge him up to 40%, which is why they are searching for the Hollow Earth energy source. Speaking of which, after exploring the center of the Earth, which makes me think of a Breath of the Wild world map if it was flipped around like Inception buildings, Kong makes his way to an ancient temple that looks like Monkey Moria, and finds the primitive primate equivalent of a Stormbreaker, an axe made of one of Godzilla's dorsal plates. He sets it down on the ground in front of a giant throne, and it starts charging like a cell phone. Contrived drama ensues when the CEO's evil daughter, whose acting ability lends itself to the Fast and Furious franchise, orders her men to collect a sample of the energy. Jane Goodall and Dr. Useless act like this is some sort of shocking betrayal, but this was part of the deal from the beginning, and it seems like the writers just forgot this somehow. Just then, Godzilla senses Stormbreaker charging, and burns a hole to the center of the Earth with his atomic breath trying to kill Kong. And so, round 2 of Kong vs. Godzilla begins. And while their battle at sea was exciting, their fight in Hong Kong is like a neon Man of Steel fever dream. Though Kong has an axe to grind, Godzilla proves yet again that he is indeed the king of the monsters, literally crushing the giant ape underfoot. Meanwhile, Stranger Things Chunk and Alex Jones have been captured by Apex Security and are taken to the CEO's office, just in time for Mechagodzilla to reach his full power. Turns out they use one of Ghidorah's decapitated heads from King of Monsters as sort of a kaiju Wi-Fi control interface. Basically like piloting a Jaeger in Pacific Rim, except stupid and convoluted, so I guess it's more like the sequel to Pacific Rim. And as fate, or in this case, the screenwriters would have it, somehow the skull of Ghidorah, with no remaining brain matter or tissue of any kind, manages to think for itself, short out the pilot's interface, and take over Mechagodzilla, which naturally spoils the plans for the greedy CEO of Apex, who seems less like a villain and more like the world's most interesting man. He doesn't always build a giant robot Godzilla, but when he does, it ends up killing him. After turning the CEO of Apex into meat paste, Mechagodzilla sets his sights on everyone's favorite laser-puking gecko, and leaping lizards, what a fight it is. Godzilla starts getting the kaiju poodoo kicked out of him, so he tags out and lets Kong take care of business with his mighty axe. And when you really stop and think about it, this film is essentially Batman v Superman with giant monsters, and Mechagodzilla is Doomsday. The only thing we're really missing here was Mothra swooping in like Wonder Woman at the end to block some of Mechagodzilla's atomic breath. There was an egg and everything at the end of King of Monsters. Now I know it may seem like I'm being hard on this film, and while I understand no one goes to kaiju films for the human characters, a few changes to the plot would have fixed all of the problems I've just discussed. For example, instead of introducing the bland Hollow Earth character, they could have streamlined the storyline by giving Kyle Chandler, who played the dad in King of Monsters, a bigger role. As an animal expert at Monarch, it would have made perfect sense for him to already know the doctor studying Kong. When Kong starts outgrowing his environment, Apex Cybernetics could show up and offer help transporting the giant ape to the newly discovered Hollow Earth, seemingly out of public concern. This way you could have legitimate conflict of interests, when it turns out they were only interested in obtaining the rare power source at the Earth's core. While predictable, at least it would have made sense. It was also hard for me to root for Godzilla at the end, when he killed so many people just because he was in a bad mood. His heightened intelligence also made him seem spiteful throughout the picture. A better way to achieve sympathy for Godzilla, and true villain status for Apex, would have been to employ the good old mind control device from previous Godzilla films, updated with Apex implanting a device that agitates Godzilla and draws him to cities to destroy them. This would make Apex the true villains of the picture, since they manufactured a crisis they were planning to solve and exploit for profit with Mechagodzilla. This way, you have a cleaner story that makes more sense. You continue the continuity of the characters you introduced in King of Monsters, and everyone has a purpose in the narrative. These changes would have made the movie more enjoyable for me personally. Every time Godzilla and King Kong fight, the movie had me. It was a big neon monster-fueled theme park ride. But the film felt like it was a victim of sloppy rewrites, combining various screenplays without ever really checking their work for continuity. If they'd only tried a little harder and spent a bit more time refining the human side of the story, this movie would have been great, because the visuals are absolutely stunning. I enjoyed the music, and when it comes to the battle between these two titans, the movie definitely delivers. And to the film's credit, I appreciated the lack of politics. I found that very refreshing. So while I must admit, I still prefer the 90s era Toho Godzilla movies to any of these current MonsterVerse films. It was fun finally seeing a movie on the big screen once again. But those are my thoughts on the film. What did you think of it? Is Godzilla vs. Kong a monstrously entertaining film? Or did it choke on its aspirations? And let me know in the comments below, if you could combine any franchises into a versus film, what would it be? This has been Vader Reviews. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. And follow me on Twitter, @Vader Reviews. Join the Empire today. You do not yet realize your importance. Share these videos, and together we will rule the internet. And always remember, you don't know the power of the dark side.